Hello and welcome to this video. So yesterday I talked about how to use React context and use reducer to share the state as well as manage the state. Today I'll be speaking about an important issue that comes when you don't use context, or in that case in the Redux also you will face the same issue if you are not using it properly, and that is called deep merge. So what is basically deep merge is, see, I'll tell you in the React context. Because we are discussing more React context, and the same applies for Redux also. So ideally what happens is that when you are updating the state, if you don't update the state, basically it is expecting Redux or context is expecting that you update the state immutably. Immutability means what? Without affecting other state variables, you have to update the state. If you don't do it properly, one thing that will happen is the component will not get re-rendered again. That is one thing, both in Redux as well as context. And second thing that will happen is the other state variable will get impacted. That means it will be overwritten. And it's a serious issue, because if something gets overwritten, then whatever values you have entered, suppose you are having a forms, okay, form fields are there. On the multi-step form you are working on, something complex you are working on, especially this happens in complex. So in that, let's let's take an example of multi-form, wizard. So where three forms are there. So whenever you enter, so for the step one form, you enter the values and click on submit. So you're dispatching something, right? And in that only you are having dealing with two different API calls. So whenever the response of one API call you dispatches, and you get when the response of second API call, then also you dispatch, right? So when you dispatch in the reducers, whether you are using user reducer or you are using Redux, in that you have to update the state immutable manner. That means using spread operator properly. Else what will happen is the second API response will override the first API response. This is a major issue. So you have to know how to use it. Okay, I have made some notes. Let me share my screen and then we can discuss about it, and we can write some code also. Okay. Okay. So let me close this. Okay. So the question is, the context value gets replaced if data is dispatched at multiple times. So data dispatching multiple times happens when we have multiple API calls we are doing, and we are depending on the multiple API calls response to dispatch it. So in that case, you can do a promise, and then you can, or you can use async await to get the values, and finally you can dispatch it once. Okay. So do all the API calls you do, get the value and dispatch it once. That is a quick solution. But sometimes it is, kind of not possible also, because if you are having some validation thing that you are doing, then immediately you have to show it, right? So in that case, that validation response, if it is part of the context, then it is a problem, right? So in that case, sometimes it is not, easy to dispatch only once. Okay, ideally you should dispatch only one time so that these problems will not happen, but sometimes it's not possible, right? So in that case, what happens? So here is the question that is asked. Maybe this is an interview question, right? That this happens when dispatches merge payloads without preserving full state. Yeah, when you do multiple dispatches without preserving the full state, if in the reducer we are updating the state, then this problem will happen. Okay. Now, if there are example is, if there are two API calls and you dispatch two times, then the second API response will override the first one. Okay. I'll give an example. I'll write and I'll tell you. Ensure merging is deep or manual. So this is solution that you have to ensure that the merging is deep or manual. I will show you. Dispatch accurately in edit mode. So in the form edit mode, when you are dispatching it, you have to dispatch accurately, because in that case, when the response so in the edit mode, what happens? You do API call, get the value, and show in the form, right? So after showing in the form, if you change something, if you in the edit mode, you can change the value that you are getting, right? So when you change something, and when you are dispatching it, dispatch once, or use deep copy and then use it. Okay, I'll show you by giving an example, writing an example. Use any utility like deep merge. Yeah, deep merge is a npm library. You can use it, or you can use load as. In load as also there is load as or underscore js. It's there. How to merge without keeping the mutability into consideration, right? Next is use stable initial state when APIs are slow. Yeah, when the APIs are slow, that means it's taking time to get the response. In that case, we should have a default values which will take care of it will not break the screen basically. Okay. Initialize context state with empty structure. Yes. merge as a response arrives. When the response arrives, then merge it, then dispatch it. Okay, and avoid overwriting already fetched fields. So if the fields are already written, then avoid overwriting it. So these are the four different conditions you have to satisfy. Okay, so let me give an example. So first of all, also when we are having two or more API calls and we're dispatching multiple times, what happens? Okay, so I had written some code yesterday, and basically I'm not running any code. I'm just explaining you through example. So we are not kind of writing a piece of code to explain this, but I'll write the code so that you get examples. You'll get code easily through ChatGPT. Okay, if you just type this prompt like how to manage this, you'll get a lot of code. So you can do through that. But I just want to explain in the real-time perspective how to manage it. Sometimes using ChatGPT will not solve your problem. That is where I come into picture, right? So where I had written, I think here I've written where the context. Let me show you the context. I think where is the context? Yesterday I created the context. I think here. Yeah, here. Now, so what we are doing here, and let me open this step form also. So where we are doing the API call, right? Now imagine this handle submit, you're dispatching it once, right? So I'll say given so I am having this context basically, okay, which has the initial state, and this is the context, and the using the use reducer is there, which will basically update the in this action we receive uh, through the dispatch. So basically when you do a dispatch, we dispatch the type as well as the payload. So if the payload if the type is updated first from, then I'm calling this, and I'm where I'm kind of updating the state. So basically I've already done a copying of the state, and then I'm updating it. Okay, now, so what I was saying is if I have to dispatch this two times, right? But it means basically, so I will have to await. Okay, so await fetch API 1. Okay, I just write a fetch API 1. That means it is doing API call and getting the value. Okay, so API 1 response like this. Okay, so I got the response from the API 1. Now I want to dispatch it, right? So I'll just write here API response 1, right? Payload API response 1, I just write here. Okay. Now the same thing I have to do if I get the API response 2. I'm just explaining the problem scenario. Okay. So if I'm having one more API call and I'm doing the API call again, right? And I am getting the value, so I have to dispatch it again, right? Like this I have to do. Now this what it will do is, what this will do is if the API response has, okay, so first API call, it is updating name, age, and whatever first step. So whatever fields are that I'll update. And in the second API call, it comes, some other values are there, right? Maybe see, I can tell that, okay, first API call has name and age, and second has something else, right? And that something else, when you are updating it, if it is not updated properly, which means that um, if this would have been a kind of okay, let me think about it. Maybe if this is kind of updating the address, right? Okay, so if it is updating the address, then how you have to do is, first of all, you have to write like this. Suppose I'm just giving an example, address, then you have to copy the address again because you are updating the address, right? Because you are updating the address, you have to deep copy the address again. So basically we are using spread operator to copy it, and then I write a comma, and then I would write what, address, and inside this not address again. So inside this I'm having what, city. I think I'm having city. Am I having the city and state? Here I can extend dot payload, right? Dot cti, right? And if the value is not there, that means if you are not getting the value, you can update with the default value, right? Like this, you can write. I should not write city in bracket. Okay. And for the street also the same thing, right? So basically what we did, we had a copy of the uh, structure dot street. Okay, and if it is not that, then I'm giving a default value. So here what I did, I'm having the address. Okay, so I want to change the city and street that is coming from the API response. Okay, so in that case, what I will do is, I am copying a deep copy I'm doing of that address so that I don't, modify it. And then if I'm getting the value, then I'm, updating it. If not, I'm writing here null, because if other response doesn't has this particular city value, then what will happen? It will, by default, it will change, it will overwrite, right? That's the reason we have to always keep the original copy and then modify it in this manner. Okay. Okay. Second is, so I'm having this API response 1, API response 2. So in this case, if I'm dispatching it twice, someone is calling me. If I'm dispatching it twice, okay. If I'm dispatching it twice, what will happen is, 1 second. Yes, so let me say one more time. Okay. Okay, so here I'm dispatching it twice, so that this problem will happen. Now, to avoid this problem, what I have to do is that instead of dispatching it 2 times, I can dispatch it once. Okay. And here, what I can do is, I can do something like this. I write here. So if you think that both the API response has similar kind of values, so I can write here API response 1, comma, okay. API response 2. So now what this will do is that it will, you know, take the latest values. Okay. So if something is not available in response 1, it will take from response 2. It will kind of aggregate both and then response. So like this, we can do it if we are having multiple response. So this answers which number point is, yeah, I think merge as response arrives is how we set up here. We set the value, and whenever the value are coming, I'm merging it. Okay, or default value is null. Okay, this answer this point. Initialize context here. Initialize we have done with null, and merge as response we have done. Avoid overwriting already fetched fields. Avoid overwriting already fetched. Yeah, this is the answer to this is how we did this. So here we are overwriting. So if some values are not there in response 1, from response 2 it will take. If some values are common between response 1 and response 2, then kind of response 2 value will overwrite here. But if we are doing in this manner, if not, then what we can do is that we can just simply, dispatch both with having, instead of doing in this manner, I can write something like this, I just here have payload 1, I can have API response, and payload 2, I'll have API response 2. So like this, I can do payload 2 in the, like this I can do. So that means I'll get both of them. And when I go here, then I can take extend.payload has payload 1 and payload 2, whatever I want to update, I can update it. So that manually you can do it. Okay. Or you can use something like deep merge to load as deep merge, we can use to add it. So based on your response, you have to do that. Okay. Okay. So have I answered everything? There are more than 2 API calls dispatching to. So always do only one dispatch. Okay, that is the best solution. But if you have to do dispatches immediately after the API call, then you have to follow this thing. Okay, ensure merging is deep or manual. Yeah, deep merge we have done here when I have done the address here. Then I have took a copy of the address, the original value I have took. Then I modified it. So this is the deep merge we have done. Now, if you go still deep, then the same thing. So suppose inside the address there will be address 1, address 2, like this. So then I have to do spread operator state dot address 1. I have to do, then I have to do. So that is manually we are doing it. Okay. If you are using Redux toolkit, I think we don't need it, because the Redux take care of the immutability part inside, because it has its own library immer to take care of it. But if you are using React Redux, or if you are using context, then manually you have to do update the state. Okay. dispatch accurately in yeah, in edit mode you will get the value, so that you can you will fill the form fields. And when you change it, then you have to, so I said I have a local state and then do it, right? So I'm having this local state here, and so the input value, I'll be in the value part, I'm having the local state value, and when I'm changing over here, I'm changing in the local state value, I'm changing, and then I am clicking on the form submit or through a button. When I'm submitting the form, then I am doing the dispatch. So this is also a good way of doing it. Okay. Um, use any utility like deep merge. Yeah, I think I've covered every point. So the thing you have to remember that always use one dispatch. Don't avoid using multiple dispatches. If you are using multiple dispatches, then you have to do deep state copy and then do it in the context or in the reducer basically, else it will be overwritten, and you will get unnecessary values, or there will be not performance issue, but unnecessary values, which is very difficult to kind of solve, right? So deep copy is the answer to this. Okay, if you like this video, and please like my video, share and subscribe. Write in the comments what next video you want to see, as well as I'm coming up with a course which will be available in Udemy in some days, so that it is mostly on interview preparation, like these questions will be there, and it will help you a lot. Okay, so yeah, that's about context. I'll be looking into other topics also as I see. So every day I come with something unique. So these videos are everything unique. You'll not find these videos, because these videos I create uh, related to problems that people generally face working in office. Okay, these are all real-time problems. Okay, these videos you will not find it anywhere in YouTube or anywhere place. Okay, so I'll be converting this into a course where I'll be better explaining the examples, giving very good, nice examples. Okay, yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much.